Hey, what's going on, guys? Hope you are having a blast of 2021 and keeping safe in this whole COVID situation. My name is Junaid Maqsood, and today we will look deeply into the new open source project that is just released by Reloadly and see how it can save you guys a lot of time and money. This is a part one of what's going to be a two-part video. In this video, I will be talking about the right ways of getting the repository set up on your server. We will look at two completely different development platforms so that you have a broader vision on this. While in the second video, we will talk about post-installation process of getting things connected in the right way and how the whole system works. Feel free to contact Reloadly support if you have any questions on this. Before going to installation, let's start with looking at the license that this repository comes in. This open source project is licensed under MIT, which means you guys are free to use this commercially or privately with or without any modification, but Reloadly does not take any liability or warranty of this project. This project is provided in as-in condition, and it's your responsibility to make sure everything works fine and is configured correctly, which is why I'm going to walk you through the whole process so you can deploy it to your servers in a secure manner. This project is built using Laravel version 8 and PHP version 7.3. If you are not familiar with this PHP framework, do check out their official documentation in order to understand the flow of the project and to answer any questions that you might have about what goes where and what does what. You should also check out their official guide on deployments, as we are going to somewhat follow the same standards and process. Today, we will be looking at two different deployment environments. How you deploy this system will majorly depend on what type of server that you have or are planning to purchase and what environment that server comes with. The first deployment environment that we will look at is a Docker-based installation process, in which we will purchase a standalone fresh server that comes with Ubuntu and Docker pre-installed, and we will deploy the whole system there with the help of Docker. The other deployment environment that we will look into is a cPanel based installation. This is when you get a managed server. These are usually recommended if you do not have any DevOps or dedicated team to monitor and manage the server and making sure that there are no vulnerabilities and it's fully secure. Docker is mostly recommended only if you know what you are getting into and how to make the server secure. Otherwise, go with a fully managed cPanel option so that you can get help from your hosting provider to set things up and to get help if something goes south. Now, I'm not going to bore you guys with the whole process of getting the droplet. It's pretty easy. You can contact DigitalOcean or any other server provider, or there are tons of videos already out there on how you can get things set up. So I'm just gonna fast forward through the whole process and I'll detail you if there's something you should definitely make sure of. I'm not gonna use a raw image. I'm just gonna go into marketplace and select a Docker pre-installed image, this one, because it already comes with a bunch of security in place and is ready to be used with Docker. Now that our droplet has been created, we're simply gonna access it via SSH. Okay, we're in. Now that we are inside the terminal of our server, let's quickly switch back to the repository and see what we need. So we need to have Docker and make installed. So let's quickly do apt install make. Now that make is there, we will follow the process from the documentation for installation of our system to this server. Local only installation is a simple one command installation that is only if you are doing it on your development environment or you're testing the repository. This is not recommended for any public server because all the credentials are the default one being used by this and it's not secure. So we will be using the recommended server installation here. So the first step is to clone the repository. So we'll just clone this repository, go inside the project folder, and we need to create a copy of the .env file. If you don't know what the .env file is, it's basically the environment file from where Laravel loads all the environment variables. So we're going to create a copy from the example env file. Now if I do an ls to view all the files in this folder, I can see that we have just created this .env file. We need to edit this env file and change all the root passwords and database detail to a different random value. I'm going to use nano to edit this file right from the terminal. Okay, so we can change the name to something sample top up. So we're going to change the environment to production because it's going to run on production. On the app URL, you're supposed to paste the actual URL from where this system will be accessed. We're simply going to access it via the IP. So I'm just going to copy and paste the IP here. And next we will change the DB root password to something different, right? So this is the default password that comes with the default environment file. I'm just gonna type some random things in there, right? I'm gonna keep the port to 80 and 443. Again, the database name, I'm gonna change it to my database, and the user, again, change it to something else, my database user, and again the password for this user, I'm going to change it to another random string. Okay, so that's fine for now. Let's hit save, and we will save the file with the same name. Now that we have edited the environment variables, remember we are using Docker. So basically when we change the database name and the user and the passwords before doing the installation, now when we do the installation, the Docker will automatically create the database and the user and everything for us. So let's simply run the installation command, make install. This is going to take about 5 to 15 minutes depending on the speed of your server. And once the installation is done, everything should be good and up and running. So I'm just going to fast forward the video to when the installation is fully done. Okay, there we go. The command is complete. Now, if you get any error during the installation process, just wait a few seconds and then run the make install command again. That will most likely fix all the installation issues that you get. And to make sure that you're running this process on a clean Docker image so that there are no conflicts with any other system running on this server. It does require port 80 to be open, so if you're on a clean Docker image, that's going to be fine. But if you have anything else running on port 80, then you're probably going to end up with a lot of errors. You can, however, change the port that this system uses by changing it in the .env file. So if you go back to DigitalOcean and copy the IP and open it, it should open up the system just fine. There we go. Everything looks good and up and running. We could use the default username and password. So let's just copy it from the repository to log in as the system admin on this project, right? So there we go. We have successfully installed this system on our server. There are a few configurations that we do need to do. We need to hook it up with the Reloadly API keys. All of that and a complete walkthrough of the system, how it works, we will cover in the next video. For now, we will look into different deployment process for a different type of server. Now we are back at our repository page. We're going to start fresh and we are going to be looking into the whole process of how you can install this project onto a cPanel based server. So for cPanel based installation, you can use any hosting service provider to get a hosting package. VPS or any Laravel optimized server are recommended to use with this system. You should just make sure that you have plenty of resources to get this up and running, and that your provider supports upgrades so that if more people are using the system and you're low on resources, you could basically increase those resources. I'm going to use Online Birdie for my cPanel account. I've already gone in and purchased this server from Online Birdie. It is a Laravel optimized managed server, so it pretty much comes with everything that we need for getting this system up and running. One thing you should definitely note here is that if I go into the file manager, by default the cPanel document root is public HTML, but because I've purchased a Laravel optimized server from Online Birdie, they've already set it up to .2/public HTML/public. So because Laravel public directory is not public HTML, it's /public. So we're gonna install all our system in the public HTML while keeping the document root of our domain to public, so that all our sensitive data is secure and is not open to any public route. We're going to use this test URL that I've just set up. So if I go to this URL, it currently gives me index of slash, which is basically this folder, right? /public HTML/public, this folder. If you do not have a Laravel optimized cPanel, or you're starting from a VPS, you can Google change document root in cPanel. The first result is usually you just follow these steps and you can change the public domain route of your cPanel account from public HTML by just adding /public at the end of this to right to make it work with Laravel. Let's go back to our cPanel. There are multiple ways you can deploy the PHP Laravel project on a cPanel account. It is highly recommended that you do not download this repository and then upload from here. You should not do that. You should definitely opt with the SSH access of your cPanel account and then clone the repository via terminal. So similar to how we did the Docker installation, but it's definitely going to be a different process. So I'm just going to add my SSH key on the cPanel account so I can access the server from my computer. Right now I've added the public key of my computer. I'm going to click on manage and authorize this key to access the cPanel account. So now that it's authorized, we're going to go back to cPanel and we're going to use these details to connect to our cPanel account via SSH. So I'm just going to copy the IP, and for username we're going to use this username, and instead of password I'm just going to give it my private key. So let's try to connect. So there we go, we are inside the SSH of our cPanel server. If I do an ls to see the whole folder structure, I can see that there is already a public HTML folder which is created by default. So we need to clone our project in the public HTML folder so that it automatically works with the document root that is set up on this account. So I'm just going to delete the public folder. It's empty because it's a fresh account. And then I'm going to copy the clone command, right? Copy. git clone, and then instead of it automatically creating the sample Airtime top-up platform folder, I'm going to tell it that it should clone inside public HTML. So that's why we needed to remove the public HTML folder, because Git can only clone inside an empty directory. So let's let it run. So now that we have cloned our project inside public HTML folder, let's see what it looks like from the file manager. So in file manager, I can go in public HTML. I can see all the files are here, right? So the next thing we need to do is add the database credentials into the env file. For that, we need to go in settings and enable show hidden files, so it shows dot files. So we have .env.example. We're going to copy this file and name it .env. Right? There we go. So now we have this .env file. We're going to edit this. Again, we're going to change the name of our project, sample top-up, environment to be production, and debug to be off. Here our app URL is going to be complete app URL of this server. Right? And we don't need the Docker environment variables here, so let's just remove those. Our connection is SQL and DB host. Now because we're not using Docker, we're simply gonna say local host, because our cPanel and the database server are the same here. Now for database details, we're gonna go back to cPanel and I'm gonna create a new database here. So I'm gonna use the MySQL database wizard, and we can call it anything. I'm just going to call it main. So this is the full name of our database. I'm going to copy this, paste it here, and now it wants me to create a user for this database. So I'm going to call it main user, and a password. I'm going to use the generator. I'm going to copy this and paste it in the DB password. Let's just add it into double quotes. I added it in double quotes because there are special characters here and I don't want the script to mess with anything. So I just click create user. So this user is created. Let's copy the user and paste it here. Now we want to give all privileges to this user because it has to create tables and everything. So now the database is successfully created. We have successfully created the user and allotted it to our database with full access. Let's go back to cPanel in environment, and that's it. We just click save and the environment file is ready for us to proceed with the next step. So the next step is installing the system. Now we cannot use the make install command here because that was for Docker. So I'm just gonna give all the commands in the description down below. I will also add these to the documentation. So let's go inside our public HTML folder because that is where our system is installed. We are going to start with composer install. So basically this will install all the dependencies that our project has via Composer. Now one thing we should make sure while this is installing is that we are definitely on 7.3 PHP version. To change that, we can simply go in PHP manager and see what version we are using on this cPanel account. It's by default here. For me, it's 7.4. So I'm just gonna change it to 7.3. Now sometimes your cPanel account has a different PHP version for public and a different PHP version for shell, which is the case in my as well. So I'm also gonna go in select PHP version and change the version to PHP 7.3 here as well. So now that our dependencies are installed, we're going to go in and write PHP artisan migrate command to run all the migrations. Because we are in production mode, it's going to ask if you really want to run this. I'm going to write yes. So all our migrations are done. Next, I'm going to run PHP artisan db colon seed to basically add all the seeds in our table. Again, yes. Now, because all our configurations are done, if we go back to our public URL, hit refresh, we should be good to go. There we go. Our system is installed. There is just one thing that we should definitely configure here, the cron jobs. So I'm gonna go in cron jobs in my cPanel account. I'm gonna copy this general example. I'm going to create a setting to run this command every minute, and the command is going to be PHP and artisan, which is inside our public folder, schedule run. So this is basically a general laravel schedule command. This tells cPanel to run the schedule every minute, and laravel will basically take it from there. So I'm going to add that. This makes sure that all our jobs and commands within this project are running properly and are being managed. So that is it. We can log in with the default system admin user. And we are live. Now there are certainly a few configurations, as I said before when we did the Docker deployment, that we still need to do with this system to get it to work with our Reloadly account. We need to configure the keys, and there are a few commands that we can run or wait a full 24 hours for the system to do a complete sync from Reloadly for countries and operators and get our balance and basically start the whole process. We will definitely cover all of that in the next video, where we will first configure the system, and then I will walk you guys through what different user roles this system already comes with and what we can do to get this to actually start making us profits. So there we have it. We successfully installed the open source Airtime project on two different servers having different environments. This was done just to guide you guys on how you can deploy the project based on what your server environment is. If your server is a completely different environment, you can just find a complete deployment guide for Laravel project on that environment, and this project is gonna be exactly the same process. So in the next video of this, we will see how to configure the project with Reloadly keys and how to properly run the project. Now you should definitely understand that this whole process is usually to help you guys kickstart your top-up journey, but you should definitely have some development experience or a developer in your team to help you further make sure that your server is secure enough for general public. If you have any concerns or need to talk, Reloadly support is open for you. Hope you had a great session today, and make sure to follow our YouTube channel and click the bell icons to stay notified on upcoming videos like this one. I will definitely see you in the next one. Take care.